The book I chose to read was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This book is set in the early 1930s Depression era in California. The story begins with George and Lenny.
They find a resting spot near the Salinas River. George is the smaller of the two men, with strong, dark features. He is the brains of the team and protects Annie. Annie is a gentle giant, much larger than George, and is incredibly strong. Annie has a mild mental disability, and is deeply devoted to George. He has a strange fondness for soft things. This led them to the trouble that they are now on the run from. It was the simple pleasure of touching a young girl's red dress that frightened her into running away from Annie, resulting in her dress being ripped. She then ran into town accusing Annie of rape. As they were resting that night by the river, George scolds Annie for hanging onto a dead mouse. As they eat, Annie gets George to talk about their dream to own a farm. Annie insists that responsibility will be to take care of the rabbits, another soft animal that he adores. Even though George is often irritated by Annie and his mistakes, talking about the ranch always cheers him up.
It is important to George to tell Lenny that should any trouble happen at the new ranch, Lenny needs to come back to that exact location to hide in the brush and wait for him.
The following day the two men continue on foot to the new ranch. George, scared of how their new boss might react to Lenny's disability, demands that he will do all the talking.
While talking to the boss, George lies, telling the boss that Lenny was kicked in the head by a horse when he was a young boy and that they travel together because they are cousins.
After handing over their work slips they meet up with the old, one-handed, sweeper that goes by the name Candy, who takes them to the bunkhouse.
Candy is usually accompanied by his old, stinky dog. There in the bunkhouse they meet the boss's son Curly.
Candy tells George and Lenny to beware of Curly and his love of picking fights with men that are bigger than him.
Candy's warning strikes immediate concern in George, knowing that Lenny is an easy target.
After Curly leaves, his beautiful wife makes an entrance into the bunkhouse and George quickly answers her questions to avoid any possible trouble.
George wants to make certain that Lenny does not talk with her. Before the day ends, George and Lenny meet Slim, the ranch owner's right-hand man with an ageless face named Slim.
They also meet Carlson, another ranch hand who is extremely annoyed by Candy's stinky, old dog. Carlson convinces Candy to let him put down his dog and take one of Slim's new pups.
Later, Candy confesses to George how much he regrets that he was not the one to kill his own dog.
The next day Candy overhears George and Lenny talking about their dream farm.
Candy, knowing he has little time left at the ranch, offers his life savings, anxious to be a part of their plan.
Then suddenly sparks fly. Curly accuses Slim of messing around with his wife. All the ranch hands laugh at Curly while Lenny is in his own world, smiling about the farm.
Curly pounces on Annie, and when Annie finally defends himself, Curly's hand is crushed. Now everyone knows how strong Annie really is.
So when Curly's wife is found dead in the barn, there's no doubt as to who committed the crime.
It is George who comes to realize that he has to kill his own friend, or else he would die a painful death by those who hate him.
He ends Lenny's life with the peaceful idea of their dream farm.
What a beautiful story.
I could see many themes in John Steinbeck's novel, but the one I found to be important was to fight for your own American dream. The life and times of these ranch hands were very difficult, yet the dreams were still simple compared to ours today. All they wanted was to own a small piece of land, take care of animals, raise crops, and to be independent. George and Lenny kept their dream alive by talking about it every day. George was motivated by land and freedom, Lenny was motivated by his love of animals, and Candy was motivated by his need to feel useful again. I would like to believe that George continued on at the ranch and continued to fight for his American dream. In my opinion, our dreams give us something to live for every day. Game over.